So, racial division and people's unbalanced energy and their assumptions, they're all bioengineered. Okay. I wrote a bunch of pages a couple years ago in the beginning of 2020 when the riots first started and people were accusing different interest groups to start the riots and all that. Okay. And so I was in the middle of writing my book and bringing in biochemistry, trying to make sense of the racial tensions that are going on in our society, all the way back to the Civil War, to civil rights, to just, even way before that in the beginning when slavery was first practiced in the European countries and then carried over to the Americas. And so I have to really tread upon this very carefully because I don't want to come off as being political, but I'm coming from a very biochemical perspective that will confirm that humans are not adapting to their geographical location. They're made to be in a cured state, not adapting, which means that their hormones are being manipulated not to be able to adapt to the UV rays if they're in direct sunlight, or adapt to lack of UV rays when they don't get direct sunlight. And so that means that we must understand what melanin is. Melanin is a skin pigmentation that is triggered from the hormones based upon UV ray triggers, UV ray exposure. So UV ray exposure, first we have the 7 layers of the atmosphere, the outer space, exosphere, ionosphere, mesosphere, stratosphere, troposphere, other spheres. And they shield from the aggressive UV rays from the sun. Okay? But then our body has its own layers of protection against UV rays. And that is the melanin. That's the hormone that causes our skin to get darker over the summer if we're outside. I mean, if you saw a few pictures of me a couple of years ago and I was out there on the boat, I was in direct sunlight and I would be very dark. Okay, when my parents took us to Hawaii as children and we were always in the pool during the summertime, we were very dark. And then during the wintertime, when we're not outside in direct sunlight and there wasn't a lot of sun during the wintertime, then we became very light-skinned. Okay, we didn't have so much melanin come up and darken our complexion. And so when you don't get enough UV rays, then it doesn't trigger the vitamin D hormone to then regulate your calcium. And so you have rickets and bone loss and other types of deficiencies, which then causes people who are not getting enough melanin, whether they're a mole person, where they're in the dark all the time, or they have so much melanin blocking the UV rays, too much protection. And so they're taking in vitamin D3 supplements, which you're seeing the holistic people recommend to people because they're diagnosing their friends and family and giving them recommendations of D3, and they shouldn't be doing that because what happens is taking too much vitamin D3 then increases too much calcium. Too much calcium causes hypercalcemia. Hypercalcemia thickens the blood vessels, and then this is where people are dying from heart attacks and strokes, hypertension, high blood pressure, cardiovascular issues. What's the number one disease of women, regardless of racial ethnicity? It's heart attacks. Why do they get heart attacks? Well, there are a lot of different reasons, but one of the main ones is hormonal imbalances. Okay? Too much of the UV radiation causes hypercalcemia. hypercalcemia, not enough UV radiation, and then supplementing with supplements like vitamin D3 also causes then heart attacks and strokes. And so someone that doesn't produce enough melanin, okay, then, there's a specific ethnicity. I'm not going to say what they are because I'm not trying to be political here, but race is very political. When you don't have enough melanin because you're outside and you're getting so much UV, that's too much calcium that you're producing, okay, because you're getting a lot of vitamin D, produces and regulates calcium, brings more calcium in, and then this is when the body has too much calcium and it's clogging up their arteries and capillaries. And again, this is where people die from heart attacks and strokes, because then they have to go turn to blood thinners and other types of anti-calcium type stuff. And so this is where people get on a string of drugs, okay? And so then you start looking at society as a whole. And then you have to look at then that the commercial of the transition lenses, where the lenses get darker when you go outside, protecting your eyes from UV rays. And then when you come inside, you don't have to take your glasses off, because then the transition lenses get lighter when it's triggered by not a lot of UV rays, right? Well, your body, your skin should be doing the same thing, regardless of ethnicity, background, whatever. Right now, race is determined by hormones being stuck in a cured state, being stuck in suspension. And then when people are glitching, then there's racial tensions that is then being triggered by the media and by politics, religion, and science. And so if I'm in Ohio, half the season it is hot outside, and the other half of the season it is cold outside. Your skin and your body should reflect the geographical location you're in, and the climate, and the atmosphere, and the sun, and your lifestyle. And so I don't know what people are going to look like when they finally regulate, regardless of ethnicity, when they finally are balanced. When they're inside, they get lighter skin. When they're outside, they get darker skin. How fast will the transition happen? Well, that will take years. That will take years of balancing out all of your biochemistry and your hormones and everything. And the reason why we have like generations of people with very specific hormonal aesthetics is because they keep dying and reproducing, and they're staying in a cured state. So when you're making exact copies of yourself, there is no evolution. The person doesn't know how to regulate and adapt to the current atmosphere, only for a short amount of time. So as long as biotech is always stepping in and doing nips and tucks and all these different types of things. But what would have happened if we had the different races finally regulate, become balanced, and all of a sudden you don't have skin color as an issue or something to judge, okay? And so right now, why we have such division in our society is because we have so many hormonal imbalances that are translating into aesthetics that people are used to judge by. And then they have gut instincts about certain things about each other that are very credible, because both sides have hormonal imbalances and are glitching and manifest in behaviors that are anomalous behaviors that are intolerant, because they have never understood what it's like to transition from one climate to another and experience it biochemically. And so I'm going to write about this in a very politically correct way. But instead of mentioning the politically correct or political names, it's about melanin. And melanin should be triggered very easily based upon UV radiation exposure and lack of it. And that should translate in how your skin manifests. And then we wouldn't have this, okay, well, we have, Caucasoid, Mongoloid, Negroid, all these different OIDs at the end of these specific root words that are depicting hormone manifestations. And so if you want to know who is causing the division, it's the fact that you're not able to adapt to your geographical location and you are stuck in the jail of a very specific hormonal display, and people are not able to evolve in body, mind, and spirit. And that's holy shiz. All right, bye.